as you may have noticed, it's a pretty big day here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea, and that's why we are joined by one of the biggest L's walking, Big L luminary, Browns partner J.W. Johnson. To kick off the show, J.W., earlier today, Todd Monken was introduced as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Talk about kind of that process and how that led you guys to Todd and how excited you are to have him here.
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Obviously,
thank you.
Wish Bo was here and wish him the best. Hope
Yeah,
he's feeling
he's
better.
convalescing
I'm sure he's
right
listening,
now.
and
Yeah.
so hopefully he's feeling better. Yeah, exciting day. We're really happy for Todd and his family. And, you know, Todd's journey in coaching has, as he said, started with the Purple Pounders, I think it was.
Yes, 5 years old.
You know, and so to hear that and see him and how emotional he got today about it is pretty special for anybody. And, you know, we're just happy to have him here. I think he's going to bring a great level of intensity. You know, he's got an offensive mind that we were very intrigued with from the very beginning, and we knew we had to kind of go to that lean as far as from an offensive perspective. And, you know, listen, I think he's going to put together a great staff. We're still working through a lot of things there on both sides of the ball, but high confidence in Todd and what he's going to be able to do in the building now in the offseason. And then once we get on the grass in the season, we're really excited about it. Now, proof's in the pudding, but
Sure.
but for now, we're fired up, and I know he's just as fired up, and hopefully our fan base is fired up. But again, we gotta start getting results, and we're in the results business.
When you go through an interview process like this and you get to know somebody, and obviously we knew him from his time here in 2019 as the offensive coordinator, but you know, when you see that passion, and I got a chance to interview him, and I'm sure we're going to be releasing that shortly, but this is all he's wanted his whole life, and just shy of his 60th birthday, which I believe is tomorrow, you know, it comes true. And he got choked up in the press conference. He got choked up when I was talking to him about it. But when you have somebody who just, you know, he loves football. This is a football coach. That's what he feels like he was put on this planet to do. And you see that passion, that dedication. How does that kind of affect you on the other side of that interview, Zoom, or when you're in person with him?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we went through a pretty extensive process. You know, I think Jimmy touched on it today. I've talked to some other people about it, and, you know, it's a big deal. And I think when people are like, oh, you had him do this, you had him do that. Well, listen, you know, when you're having somebody and you're spending maybe 10 hours, you know, over a period of time, and you're going to ask them to say, hey, you're going to run a $8 billion organization, you know, from a football perspective, and that drives a lot what we're doing. We want to make sure we're putting them through all the tests and things to make sure, like, how smart is the person? What's some things that we need to be aware of as a person? You know, the quote unquote essays, which is more like a homework question, say, walk us through what it looks like if you were going to develop Shedeur or so and so, or how do you think about this? It just drives to conversation. Sure. And so when we're also just limited on time when it comes to those guys, so we're trying to beat the process a little bit by getting ahead of that. So I think when it came to Todd and everybody who we had, a lot of great internal candidates, external candidates. I mean, the amount of stuff you learn from an interview process, head coach, coordinator, whatever it may be, there's a lot of things you take and say, hey, are we doing this, or do we need to be thinking about doing that, or so on and so forth. So that's number one as far as the process goes. And then again, I think with Todd, it's just high love for football. He's a high character person. You saw it today. There's no nonsense. He's not gonna BS you. And I think, you know, he said, like, every day we're going to live as 4th and 1. And I think that's just a mindset, a mentality that, you know, you have to have, right? And I think that'll translate to our guys. You know, last year, unfortunately, we had a lot of games that we just let it get away from us. And we had a young team, and, you know, sometimes that happens and mistakes happen. It's just like any team. It'll happen to you. So I think us having that young team and the new mindset of every day is 4th and 1, you're coming in here having a winning mindset, I think he's going to drive that attention to the guys, and hopefully it translates.
We've hung around each other enough that the funny thing is I was just going to ask you about 4th and 1, and you went right there before I even had to do it. But I love when he said that every day is 4th and 1 because, and he even talked about the change in the NFL from when he was an OC in Tampa Bay, and part of it is going forward on 4th down. You can't celebrate as a defense. Put the fist up. It's 4th and 2. No, we're going to go for it. But it's that pressure. It's that. Those are the things that separate winning and losing in the most binary business on planet Earth, which is the National Football League, with everything that goes into one game that is played once a week to have those outcomes. I love that mentality. Was that something? Did that come up in the interview? Was that something that you guys
for
heard?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
That's
that,
cool.
that was definitely not just a
you're
press
like,
conference
okay.
thing. So
Yeah,
we've
he
heard,
said it to me in my interview.
We've
too,
heard
yeah.
that before, and I think that's just a mindset that he lives with day in and day out. He's probably lived with it for a long time. So, no, I just think, like I said, the level of detail, the level of intensity, and I think the creativeness that he's going to have with the offense. I mean, it's players over plays.
Yep.
Right? Now, he's going to draw up some great plays,
Sure.
okay? But I think it's players over plays, and how is he going to maximize the guys we have on the roster now? Who do we add to the roster, in February, or excuse me, in March, and then in April? All those things will tell, and I think he'll do a great job maximizing the talent that we have, and that's from every position, whether that's quarterback, receiver, O-line. Heck, I think hopefully he can keep connecting. Miles told us at the end of the year, he's like, hey, I'm going to break the sack record again. So, I think Todd will continue to motivate him to even push him as well.
A lot of draft picks, 2 in the first round, as we know, for the first time in a very, very long time. That's exciting. An ability to be flexible with the cap, as Andrew Berry talked about. But when you bring in a guy like Todd, who has been successful with so many different style offenses, so many different style players, and you guys kind of get to go shopping a little bit. This is going to be an opportunity for the Cleveland Browns to really kind of add talent. I mean, you could roll out a defense right now, week 1, of guys that are here. But this is an opportunity to add talent. I'm sure from your level, that's exciting. And obviously how Todd and AB and when Todd gets his whole staff put together, how they're going to all integrate to find those right guys. This is an exciting time, I think, to see how this offense is going to be added to, augmented, and then how it's going to be developed and perform.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, 10 picks in this year's draft. And, obviously, I think now we've heard the cap may go up exponentially. So that also helps not us, but every other team.
Sure.
So, I think his knowledge on receiver and quarterback and everything from that perspective, we're going to dive into that because we know what we need. There are some positions of need, and we want to be explosive. And we have some great guys on the roster already
Sure.
that are great players from receivers. But if we can add to that room and just make it that much better, we're going to do it. The other thing is I'll say, I also think we have a great defense, but I don't want us to neglect that. So if we have an opportunity and there's a really good player that we think can help us on defense, by all means, and Andrew and we've all talked about this, is let's go get that guy. We know we got to fix the offense, but let's keep building on the things that we've had success on.
Right.
So we're not going to neglect the defense either.
That's right. If you're staying still, you're stagnant. So
Right.
we're going to obviously continue to improve there. You mentioned it kind of at the top, but last year was difficult. I think last year was difficult for everybody inside this building.
Last couple of years have been difficult.
Difficult for everybody who's a fan of this organization. And today feels like a dawn of a new day, right? You introduce a head coach there. It's clear from an attitude standpoint, and he talked about accountability. He's going to try to squash anything that gets in the way of winning football and try to do it not confrontationally, but eliminate those things. What is kind of your message to the fans? Because the reality is we can't see anything or feel it right until September, but we know that change is happening and that a lot is going to go on in these now we're day 30 of those 120 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think, you always hear people say, oh, did he win the press conference? Well, we don't want anybody to win a press conference.
Win games.
Okay. And, you see what happened with Liam Cohen last year and the Duval kind of comment. Everyone's like, oh, my God, this guy's going to be terrible. And he did a great job turning it around. Same thing, I think Nick Sirianni had a really bad press conference to turn around. So the press conference means nothing. Todd did a great job with that. That's who he is. He's natural, and he's going to be himself. I mean, look, from a fan base perspective, we hate losing. I've said that on this show in here leading up to week 1. If anybody has an issue with us and don't think we're going to be competitive and we care about winning, come on down. Let's talk.
Yeah.
I mean, winning to us is everything. I know what that means to our fan base. It's no fun when we lose. I mean, when you're in the locker room, even though it was the last game of the year and it didn't matter, and seeing guys and how exuberant they were and dancing around and having fun, knowing crap, the season's over, but they're like, yeah, we just won a football game. We won in a great fashion. It means so much to them, and I know what it means to our fan base. And so it's our job as stewards of this organization, day in and day out, to figure out how we're going to produce a winner. And we know that's paramount because losing is not an option anymore. And we've had enough of it. We think the guy that we have in the building now is going to lead us in the right direction. And we're going to give him as much support as we can here in the building. We hope our fan base gives him just as much support outside the building and, when training camp starts in September, et cetera. So we're excited to get going. We got a lot of work to do, but let's go.
Let's go. JW, always a pleasure to
Yeah.
have you in here. Big day. Let's go is absolutely right. Thanks so much for the time.
Appreciate it.